Hey everyone, I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney in New York, and I handle discrimination, sexual harassment, overtime, and many others. Questions? Got my little list here. Going through the list quickly today. How do employment attorneys calculate damages in a discrimination case? The quick answer is we don't. I mean, there's formulas, there's definitely criteria, and it's different, and I'm going to get into the different kinds of damages, but if anyone tells you your case is worth millions, I would be leery of that attorney. That worries me because there's a lot of discretion left up to a jury. There's a lot of discretion left up to a judge. Most discrimination cases are not worth millions. And I don't really think anyone can tell you what case will be worth that much someday. I mean, that's just not possible, and it would worry me if that was something that was said to you. There's three kinds of damages. You have your economic damages, which is the salary you've lost, the way you've been, if you weren't promoted, if your employer fired you for some discriminatory reason, or maybe you lost overtime. There's 1,000 different ways money in the workplace because of discrimination, sexual harassment, retaliation, being stripped of your vacation pay. All of that adds up. But now it's going to be offset, because if you're receiving unemployment, that's money that you're being paid, that you're being paid because you were fired. So that offsets, that's subtracted from the amount of damages you've lost so far. You have a duty to find another job. So if they fired you, you have to apply for jobs. You have a duty to mitigate, keep a journal of everything you're doing, trying to find new jobs to prove that, listen, I've tried to find work, I just can't, if that's the case. And so my damages are still running. On the other hand, if you do find a job, to some extent, that's going to limit your economic damages because you are working again. And, it's just not going to work. If someone discriminates against you and then you choose to sit home and do nothing, your economic damages are not going to run forever. It's not a pass to sit at home and be lazy. It's just something horrible that happened and you're suing for it, but in the meantime, you go on with your life. Assuming you can. Some people, there's certainly things that happen that are so horrible that they can't, and that's something, you can talk with your attorney about. There's emotional damages. Now, this is a pretty sticky issue in this field because everyone comes into my office. They've seen the news. They tell me about McDonald's hot coffee going for millions and this and that. And they say things to me like, oh, employment discrimination cases are always worth millions. They always go for millions. That's interesting because I do this for a living and that's not the case. And I think that's just a myth that people get from the media because what kind of cases get reported on? Huge cases, right? So the impression is, well, everybody gets millions of dollars in emotion. It's not the case, especially if you're in the state division. Your emotional damages, there's a good chance it can be very minor. In federal court, you have terms like garden variety emotional damages, where there's soft caps on how much you might actually hope to win in emotional damages without the testimony of a mental health expert. Or, extenuating circumstances, things like that. So that number is really up in the air. If anyone tells you, well, I've seen your case here and I think it's going to give you 1,000 in emotional damages. Okay, based on what? Do you know everything that's going to happen? How this potential client's going to testify? How the therapist is going to come in and testify? It doesn't make sense. You can't value that number at the outset of a case. You can't really value that number until you get the value from a finder of fact, whether that's an administrative law judge in the state division or a jury. It doesn't matter. Until they give you a number for emotional damages, you do not know. The last form of damages is punitive damages, which come into play in the retaliation section of the federal laws and the New York State and New York City laws, where if you complain of discrimination or sexual harassment, if you participate in the investigation of discrimination or sexual harassment, and then the employer comes after you because you did that, right? You engaged in a protected activity and now they're after you. Well, they're retaliating. And the real question you have to ask, and what you get to pose to a jury, is, well, how do we punish this employer so that they don't do this again? How much money do we have to charge them? What do we have to do so they learn to abide by these laws? Because if they don't abide by the laws, if they're allowed to go after people who complain, then no one can complain and the law is dead. It's no good if you're not comfortable complaining or participating in questions in an investigation. It should all be protected. If it's not, the law is useless. So that's always an interesting question. I always really enjoy cases with strong retaliation components, because I think those are cases where I think that's where, you know, a good lawyer really earns their living, because that number, there's no formula as I see it. I mean, at least not that I'm aware of. It's highly discretionary to the jury and get knocked down, certainly, but I'd rather have a good verdict that gets knocked down. It's still an okay verdict than a bad number to begin with, right? So that's the three kinds of damage you're dealing with here. And do be nervous if someone starts throwing out numbers that they're going to get for you. That should make you nervous. Make sure you're speaking to multiple attorneys if you're dealing with someone who's saying that sort of thing to you. Get a second opinion. Get a third opinion. Get 5 opinions. Find the best attorney for you. This is a huge decision, and you don't want to walk in the door and pick the first person who throws a big number at you. It doesn't make sense. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about this, my contact information is below. I'm always happy to talk, even if you're not going to hire me. You can even tell me from the beginning, Vince, I'm not going to hire you. I've got an attorney, I like him. Just want to check up on this guy. Okay, happy to do that. I'll talk to you. I can't give you legal advice, but I can discuss your options. I can say, well, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense. Think about this, think about that. Happy to have that conversation. Take care.